It was approaching the end of summer, and my wife and I wanted to go on a camping trip before it started getting cool down again. I had a ton of camping gear left over from when I used to go with college buddies and wanted to put it back to use. There was one spot we always used to go. It wasn't even technically a camping ground, just a cool spot we had found one time that I thought would be perfect to take my wife. The place was deep in the woods, far from any main roads, and surrounded by tall, ancient trees that seemed to whisper in the wind. It felt like our own little secret, a slice of nature untouched by the world. When we got there, we noticed a makeshift fire pit and some trash left behind. Empty beer cans, a few crumpled wrappers, and a broken chair. It was clear other people had found the spot too, but we didn't really care. We figured it was just part of the charm of finding a hidden gem like this. We set up the tent we'd be staying in, hammering the stakes into the soft earth and tying the rainfly securely. The air was crisp, and the scent of pine filled our lungs as we worked. Once the tent was up, we started a fire, using the old fire pit someone else had left behind. The flames crackled and danced, casting flickering shadows on the trees around us. We sat around the fire talking and drinking for hours on end. The night was peaceful, just the two of us, the crackling fire, and the sounds of the forest at night. Crickets chirped in the distance, and every now and then, we'd hear the rustle of leaves as some small animals scurried through the underbrush. My wife told stories about her childhood camping trips, and I shared memories of the times I'd spent here with my college friends. It was perfect, exactly the kind of quiet escape we'd been craving. But then, at around 2 a.m., everything changed. We were interrupted by the sound of a chainsaw starting and revving up. Or at least that's exactly what it sounded like. The noise was jarring, cutting through the peaceful silence like a knife. My wife and I froze, exchanging wide-eyed looks. Our first thought was that someone was cutting down a tree, but we didn't understand why someone would be doing that this late in the night. The sound was distant at first, but it grew louder, echoing through the trees. My heart started to race as I tried to make sense of it. Who would be out here in the middle of the night with a chainsaw? This theory was quickly thrown out when this maniacal laughing suddenly followed. The laugh was deep and guttural, sending a chill down my spine. It wasn't the kind of laugh you'd hear at a party or around a campfire. It was unsettling, almost inhuman. Now we were creeped out. My wife grabbed my arm, her nails digging into my skin as we both stared into the darkness beyond the firelight. The laughter seemed to come from all directions, bouncing off the trees and making it impossible to pinpoint its source. We put out the fire and got inside our tent as quickly as we could. The sound seemed distant, so we felt somewhat safe, but the unease lingered. Plus, we had a machete if it really came to that. I kept it close, my hand resting on the handle as we sat in silence, listening. Over the next few minutes, it honestly sounded like the noises were getting closer. The chainsaw would rev up, then stop abruptly, followed by that same eerie laughter. It felt like whoever, or whatever, was out there was playing with us, toying with our fear. Thankfully, the engine, or whatever it was, abruptly cut out, and a wave of relief overcame us. The forest fell silent again, save for the occasional rustle of leaves in the wind. After a half hour of silence, the two of us felt comfortable enough to try and fall asleep, and surprisingly, we actually did relatively quickly, most likely in part due to the drinks we had earlier. The exhaustion and adrenaline crash must have knocked us out. I don't know what time it was, but at some point, during the night, I remember opening my eyes, confused as to what woke me up. As my senses were coming back to me, the sound of footsteps filled my ears. They were slow and deliberate, crunching on the dry leaves and twigs outside our tent. I sat up, my heart pounding in my chest, and noticed my wife had already done the same. We sat there looking at each other, listening. There were multiple sets of footsteps. It sounded like no more than 20 yards away. My wife suggested we make a run for the car. I told her we should wait a few minutes. It was light out that night from the moon, and behind her, I could see the silhouettes of 3 men on the tent wall. They were tall and broad-shouldered, their shadows distorted by the fabric of the tent. I didn't tell her this. The last thing I wanted to do was scare her. But I did get a firm grip on the machete laying next to us, although I was horrified at the thought of actually having to use it on someone. Right there, watching the shadows, seconds felt like hours. The men didn't speak, but their movements were deliberate, as if they were searching for something. Or someone. My mind raced with possibilities. Were they hunters, trespassers, or something far worse? Finally, after what was realistically only a couple of minutes, I saw them walk off. This was our chance. I told my wife it was time to go. Leaving everything behind, I opened the tent and we bolted and sprinted to the car. I've never been more thankful to have a remote start key fob. I started the engine as we were running, and right as we got inside, I floored it out of there. The tires kicked up dirt and gravel as we sped down the narrow forest road, the headlights cutting through the darkness. That's when I told my wife about the shadows on the tent wall, and she laid into me for not telling her earlier. Her voice was a mix of anger and fear, and I couldn't blame her. We drove in silence for a while, both of us too shaken to speak. Eventually, we found a hotel and spent the night there. The next morning, we went back to the camp, partly out of curiosity and partly because we needed to retrieve our gear. But when we got there, all of our stuff was gone. Not a single thing was left behind. The tent, the chairs, the cooler, everything had vanished. Even the fire pit had been dismantled, the stones scattered as if someone had tried to erase any trace of us being there. I still don't know what really went down that night. Part of me thinks we were just unknowingly on someone else's private property, and that was their sick way of getting us off of it. But it's possible those people meant real harm to us. Either way, they now have all of our camping gear. However, I don't see us going camping again anytime soon.